Think you know everything there is to know about Rolex? Here are 101 facts about the king of timekeeping. Join me at the British Watchmakers' Day on the 9th of March in London. You'll see watches from all your favourite British brands, including the legendary Roger Smith. Plus there will be exclusive limited edition watches available for that day only. Tickets are £10 or free to Alliance members. Link in the description. I look forward to seeing you all there. Number 1. The 1926 Oyster isn't the first water-resistant watch from Rolex. That accolade goes to the 1922 Rolex Submarine. It featured a case within a screw-down case that had to be removed to wind and set the watch, with fluting embossed into the case edge to make it easier to unscrew. Number 2. The fluted bezel on the Datejust is a throwback to that original Submarine and the fluting on the case. It was also incorporated into the 1926 Oyster, where the bezel was screwed down just like the case back, with the ridged pattern offering purchase to seal it tight against water. Number 3. The Rolex Submariner was the first watch to be guaranteed to a depth of 100 meters. That's because its rival, the Blancpain 50 Fathoms, was released first with a depth rating of 50 fathoms, only 91.44 meters. Number 4. The US Navy originally rejected the Rolex Submariner in 1958, citing it as not sufficiently waterproof, and the Blancpain 50 Fathoms as cheaper and in all respects preferred. It was recommended that the Submariner be deleted from the Navy's approved list. Number 5. Rolex unsuccessfully tried to sue a small watch brand called Kiga for the use of the term milsub. Rolex was told by the Trademark Trial and Appeal Board that it could not take ownership of the consumer coin term, as it no longer sold the product. Number 6. Police officers in London have been working undercover to lure Rolex thieves into attempting a robbery. In the midst of a watch theft pandemic, Rolex has become a high-profile target, and officers are using this to catch criminals and deter future crime. Number 7. The caliber 4131 found in the Daytona has miniature sprung teeth on the chronograph second wheel to eliminate backlash and provide smooth operation of the chronograph second hand. The delicate form is created with a process called Liga, which uses UV light polymerized resin molds to galvanically grow the part with a non-magnetic nickel phosphorus alloy. The chronogy escapement found in all modern Rolex watches is also manufactured via Liga. Number 8. When Rolex was just getting started, it made watches for other companies to bring in business. One of those companies was Panerai, for which it repurposed a water-resistant Art Deco pocket watch into a diver, the Radiomir. Number 9. The markers on a Rolex dial were switched from painted to applied with white gold surrounds in 1984. White gold was chosen for not just its corrosion-resistant properties, but its reflectivity, returning 95% of the light in comparison to steel's 60%, making the markers appear brighter. Number 10. Rolex founder Hans Wilsdorf wrote a handy guide called Vade Mecum, which literally translates to handy guide. This outlined his approach to marketing and making Rolex successful in his own writing. He was very open and honest that Rolex was a marketing business and not a watchmaker, with the watches themselves imported from suppliers. Number 11. Today, Rolex makes almost everything for its watches itself, including the movements, although that was only recently the case. Rolex had exclusive rights on movements from a manufacturer called Aigler, which it finally purchased in 2004 to bring movement production in-house. Early advertising, however, already represented Aigler as Rolex's in-house production facility anyway. Number 12. The original manufacturer of the Rolex Oyster bracelet was Gay Frères, also known for producing the bracelet for the first Audemars Piguet Royal Oak. Number 13. Rolex buys a lot of property as a way to balance its non-profit status with the enormous amount of money it makes. One such property is Bond Street House in London, which just so happens to be Patek Philippe's flagship UK store. Number 14. Watchmakers traditionally made watches to be sold with the retailer's name on the dial, which were commonly jewelers like Cartier and Tiffany. When Hans Wilsdorf supplied watches to these jewelers, he would sneak in some watches featuring his own branding too. Number 15. It took Hans Wilsdorf 20 years to get retailers to accept the name Rolex on watch dials. He spent a sum worth £1 million today on marketing to persuade them, with a front page advert in the Daily Mail, which cost an equivalent of £125,000, promoting the Oyster's 1927 cross-channel swim on the wrist of Mercedes Gleitz. That marked the moment when every Wilsdorf watch would bear the name Rolex. Number 16. Rolex was originally founded in London, but moved to Switzerland where its suppliers were based after the UK government suddenly introduced a 33.3% customs duty. Number 17. Wristwatches were originally popular only with women, men favouring larger pocket watches. In 1914, Hans Wilsdorf was quoted as saying, "Pocket watches will almost completely disappear and wristwatches will replace them definitively." He led the way in making that statement true. Number 18. The waterproof screw-down crown was invented and patented by Paul Perregaux and Georges Perret in 1925. By 1926, Hans Wilsdorf had purchased that patent from them to use in the Oyster. Number 19. Hans Wilsdorf refers to the perpetual self-winding movement as the next logical outcome of the Oyster because the Oyster had an inherent flaw. The screw-down crown made winding the movement daily a risky chore, putting the delicate screw threads that sealed the watch at risk. A self-winding movement could be wound without unscrewing the crown. Number 20. Despite having moved to Switzerland, by the 1930s, Rolex's main market was still England and the Empire markets. But the devaluation of the English pound cut Rolex exports by 2/3, which prompted Wilsdorf to expand his global enterprise into America, China, and Japan. Number 21. Wilsdorf wrote that one of the main reasons his watches enjoyed universal prestige was very specifically because the making of which no plastic material whatsoever are used. Number 22. The original Oyster was listed in silver for £5, 9-carat gold for £10, and 18-carat gold for £15. Number 23. The first celebrity employed in a Rolex advert was actress Evelyn Leigh, who was pictured in a 1928 campaign wearing a Rolex Oyster with her hands submerged in a fishbowl. This coincided with a physical retailer campaign where Rolex Oyster watches were displayed underwater in fishbowls. Number 24. The third Rolex ambassador was also its first male, the land speed record-breaking driver Malcolm Campbell, who wore a Rolex during his record-breaking run. Number 25. The 50,000th Rolex watch was personally gifted by Hans Wilsdorf to Swiss World War II Commander-in-Chief General Henri Guisan. The 100,000th watch was gifted via Guisan to Winston Churchill. The 150,000th watch then went to General Dwight D. Eisenhower, who would go on to become the President of the United States. Number 26. As Rolex watches became more expensive, Hans Wilsdorf recognized the need to secure the cheaper end of the market that he was leaving behind. And so in 1946, he announced the introduction of the Tudor Watch Company, which would provide the standards of dependability for which Rolex is famous at a more modest price. Number 27. Rolex recently purchased luxury watch retailer Bucherer, who also make watches under the name of its founder Carl F. Bucherer. The purchase wasn't a coincidence. Both Hans Wilsdorf and Ernst Bucherer joined forces in retaliation of the controlling forces of the Federation of Swiss Watch Manufacturers. Number 28. The first watch to reach the bottom of the ocean, the Mariana Trench, was a Rolex. A depth record of 10,916 meters was achieved when the bathyscaphe Trieste descended to the ocean floor complete with a Rolex Deep Sea Special affixed to the outside. Number 29. Hans Wilsdorf's criteria for coming up with the brand name Rolex were a short name of 5 letters or less, easy to pronounce in every language, a good ring to it, easy to remember, and an attractive look on the dial. Number 30. The last known photo of Hans Wilsdorf shows him in 1959 at the beginning of construction for the Bexley Rolex Service Centre in England, back in the country where Rolex was originally founded. He died a year later. Number 31. No one is allowed in the Rolex parts warehouse. Components enter and exit via a series of robots on tracks. This warehouse occupies 24,000 cubic meters, has 60,000 storage compartments, 1.5 kilometers of track, and delivers 2,800 trays of parts every hour. Number 32. The name Perpetual, used by Rolex for its self-winding movements, was inspired by a self-winding pocket watch made by Breguet in the 1700s called Perpetuel. Number 33. Although the Omega Speedmaster was the official watch of NASA and the Apollo program, the Rolex GMT-master was the unofficial watch of choice. Astronauts were seen wearing them throughout training, with Jack Swigert wearing the first Rolex in space aboard Apollo 13. Number 34. Rolex watches actually made it to the lunar surface during both the Apollo 14 and 17 missions. They've also been worn on the Space Shuttle, SpaceX, and on the International Space Station. Number 35. The CNC machines Rolex uses to craft the foundational components of its movements, known as the ebosh, are equipped with 50 tools each and are each capable of working on 16 watches at once. Number 36. Rolex sets all its own gems. For watches with colored gems, each color is referenced against a master stone to make sure that every watch of that design looks uniform. Number 37. Rolex wasn't the first watchmaker to use brighter, shinier 904L steel, which it calls oyster steel. Often used in seafaring applications, and notably by diving agency Comex. Omega first tested 904L steel with its prototype Ploprof a decade before Rolex, although Omega called it Uranus steel. Number 38. Unlike other brands, the date on a modern Rolex will always click over exactly at midnight. This is because the factory uses a machine that detects the engagement of the date change mechanism by sound, so the watchmaker can align all the hands dead on midnight to within a second. Number 39. To avoid damaging the hands, Rolex watchmakers don't pick them up with traditional tweezers. Instead, they use a vacuum pen that uses suction to lift up the hand. Number 40. Every Oyster watch is tested for water resistance twice, once as just the case and once as the completed watch. For standard models, they are tested above their published limits by 10%. Professional models are tested above by 25%. Number 41. The famous Mercedes logo Hour Hand has nothing to do with the car manufacturer. Rolex began fitting them serially from 1953 on the new generation of its sports watches. The design allows the hour hand to still be seen in the dark when overlapped by the minute hand. The central structure provides better stability for the delicate luminous paint. Number 42. Rolex crystals hide a secret laser-etched inscription of the famous crown logo at the bottom. It was introduced in 2001 as a way to differentiate the watch from a fake. If the crystal has been replaced at service, however, the crown will feature a little S inside it. Number 43. Most watches with a quick set date feature can be damaged by using it within a few hours either side of midnight. Rolex's modern quick set date mechanism is instantaneous, so there's no risk of breaking the movement when using it around midnight. Number 44. Rolex has registered over 500 patents since it was founded in 1905. Number 45. Rumor has it that Hans Wilsdorf was inspired to create the date magnifying window when his wife complained of being unable to read the date. A drop of water fell on Wilsdorf's watch whilst he was bathing and he was struck with the idea. Number 46. Hans Wilsdorf is believed to have come up with the name Oyster when he struggled to open an oyster at a dinner party. His goal was to secure a watch so tight that water couldn't get in, just like an oyster. Number 47. During his time at the prisoner of war camp Stalag Luft 3, Corporal Clive James Nutting wrote to Hans Wilsdorf to purchase a Rolex chronograph. Hans Wilsdorf wrote back personally in agreement, refusing to take any payment until after the war. It's likely that chronograph was used in timing the efforts of 76 soldiers leaving via the Tunnel Harry in what's become known as the Great Escape. Nutting survived the war, but despite asking, was never charged for the watch. Number 48. Rolex only introduced its Siloxy silicon balance spring into a non-ladies model in 2023 for the 1908. The first ever silicon balance spring was a feature of the 2001 Ulysses Nardin Freak, with other brands like Patek Philippe, Omega, Longines and even Tudor adopting the Wonder material. Rolex has had the Siloxy balance spring in its collection since 2014, but oddly that was only in its ladies' watches. Rolex refers to it as being designed for small and medium diameter models and its thinnest watches. Number 49. Rolex makes watches that aren't included in its catalogue. The most recent is a day-date tribute to generations of musicians, unveiled for the Vienna Philharmonic New Year's concert. Rolex has sponsored the Vienna Philharmonic since 2008, and the watch features a violin rendered in gold and green enamel. Number 50. Rolex has teased the idea of online shopping. In a short clip summarizing the introduction of certified pre-owned in 2023, Rolex briefly displayed a screen on the Buchera website, which it now owns, allowing the online purchase of a certified pre-owned watch. Number 51. This revelation comes just weeks after Rolex was fined $100 million by the French Competition Authority for preventing French authorized retailers from selling its products online, a practice it mandates on retailers worldwide. Number 52. A patent published in 2023 by Rolex details the possibility of a perpetual calendar. The patent details a simplified mechanism that improves upon the standardized program wheel solution for a calendar, which is compatible with a full perpetual calendar. Number 53. Another 2023 patent filed by Rolex details a bezel system that can lock and unlock the pushers of a chronograph. To prevent water ingress, the Daytona's pushers have a screw-down collar that restricts them from being pressed. With this patent, users won't have to individually screw and unscrew each pusher. They will be able to do both with a turn of the bezel. Number 54. In the 1960s, Rolex introduced a Japan-only variant of the Explorer known as the Space Dweller. Released just after a hugely successful Japanese tour by the Mercury mission astronauts, the watch is believed to be a limited run built to capitalize on that popularity. Number 55. Rolex employs 14,000 people worldwide, with 9,000 of them based in Switzerland. Number 56. 56. If you're looking to get your Rolex serviced by an authorized service center, you're in luck because there are over 900 of them across 100 different countries. Number 57. As of 2023, Rolex no longer displays its most expensive watches as priced on request on its website. With the value of precious metals and stones fluctuating, Rolex used to keep prices for watches heavily featuring these materials unpublished, but not anymore. Even the most gem-set platinum day date has a price. Watches that have an even greater presence of gems are simply not listed online at all. Number 58. In 1977, Domino's founder Tom Monahan started giving away Bulova watches with the Domino's logo on the dial to franchisees who turned in $20,000 in sales in a week. The incentive was very popular, and the Bulova became a Seiko, which became a Rolex Air King. To this day, Domino's still rewards branded Rolex watches to its top performers. Number 59. Rolex currently has 4 manufacturing facilities in Switzerland, in Cherbourg, Plain-les-Ouest, Biel and Geneva, and it plans to build another in Bulle by 2029. The new facility will increase production output and provide 2,000 new jobs. Number 60. The first Rolex watch with a turning bezel is often believed to be the Turnograph, but it was actually the 1937 Zerograph, also produced under the name Centigraph. That's not the only first for the Zerograph, because it also featured a mono-pusher chronograph, making it Rolex's first chronograph too. Number 61. The 1953 Turnograph is the origin of Rolex's success in the 1950s, combining the self-winding perpetual movement with the oyster water resistant case and a turning timing bezel. It would become the foundation of the 1954 Submariner and 1955 GMT-master too. Number 62. In 1988, Rolex updated the sales flop that was the Rolex Daytona to the current style, albeit with a steel bezel instead of the ceramic one it has today. 12 years later, the Zenith El Primero-based caliber 4030 was updated to Rolex's own in-house 4130. How can you easily tell the difference? The older Zenith-based 4030 had its running seconds at 9 o'clock and the newer Rolex 4130 at 6 o'clock, a more symmetrical choice. Number 63. The Skydweller is Rolex's most complex watch, featuring the caliber 9001, which is made up of 380 parts. A close second is the Yacht-Master 2's caliber 4161, which comprises 360 parts. Number 64. The most expensive Rolex ever sold is the Paul Newman-owned Daytona 6263, complete with the exotic dial that has been nicknamed after the acting legend. It was sold at auction in 2017 for $17.8 million. Number 65. The 1972 Audemars Piguet Royal Oak is considered the father of the integrated sports watch, but an integrated Rolex watch actually predates that by 2 years. The reference 5100 not only had a blended case and bracelet in the style that would dominate the 70s, it was also Rolex's first quartz watch. Number 66. Hans Wilsdorf didn't just confine himself to Rolex and Tudor. He registered and produced watches under many other names, including RWC, Marconi, Unicorn, Rolco, Rollwattco, Elvira, Falcon, Genex, Lonex, Rolexis, Lexus, Hofex, Windex, Admiralty, Viceroy, Aqua, Oyster, Victory, Neptune, Buick, and Amigra. Number 67. The reference of many Rolex watches with colored bezels includes the letter L, for example LN for a noir or black bezel, or LV for a vert or green bezel. The L stands for lunette, which originally meant little moon, in reference to the ring shape of a crescent moon. Now it is used for many shapes that are ringed, like eyeglasses, toilet seats, and of course, a watch bezel. Number 68. The green bezel of the Rolex Submariner LV was first introduced to celebrate the 50th anniversary of the Rolex Submariner by switching the usual black bezel for Rolex's brand color, green. It was the first Rolex to designate its bezel color in the model reference. Number 69. The sapphire caseback was a prominent feature of Rolex's 2023 lineup, appearing in 2 Daytonas and the new 1908 collection, but this isn't the first time Rolex has shown off the inner workings of a watch. The 2005 revival of the 1928 Prince, brought back under the Cellini collection, was the first Rolex with a sapphire caseback. Number 70. Rolex movements with parts that no longer meet Rolex requirements are swapped out by Rolex at service. If a better part has since been developed, a serviced movement will be upgraded to the latest version of that part. Number 71. Rolex's in-house chronograph calibers, starting at the reference 4130, feature a unique architecture compared to other vertical clutch chronographs. Instead of the base movement's fourth wheel aligning with the chronograph seconds, it's aligned with the running seconds instead. This reduces the overall number of parts needed in the movement. Number 72. In photos, Rolex always has its watches set at 10 minutes past 10 and 31 seconds on the 28th. Number 73. To allow the deep-sea Sea Dweller to reach 3,900 meters without being enormous, it features an ingenious ring lock system into which the crystal and inner titanium caseback element are compressed under high pressure. The greater the pressure, the stronger the seal. Number 74. Since the 1988 16520, stainless steel Daytonas have been asymmetric, with thinner lugs on the crown side to visually balance the weight. As of 2023, with the 126500 LN, the case is now symmetric. Number 75. Rolex watches with the latest generation of movement prefixed with 3-2 get a small coronet at 6 o'clock on the dial. Number 76. The seal hang tag that comes with a Rolex watch indicates that it has been chronometer certified for accuracy. In 2005, the seal hang tag changed from red to green, with an increase on the warranty from 2 to 5 years. In 2022, a third hang tag in cream and green was created to officially certify pre-owned Rolex watches. Number 77. The helium escape valve found in the deepest diving Rolex watches was recommended by US Navy Aquanaut Bob Barth when the crystal of his Submariner popped off in the deck decompression chamber following the Sealab 2 mission. Number 78. The open sea dive depth record was set at 534 meters in 1988 by a team of COMEX divers wearing Rolex Sea Dwellers during the Hydra 8 expedition. To this day, this is the deepest a human has ever been outside of a vehicle and the deepest a watch has ever been worn. Number 79. In 1992, another COMEX diver, Theo Mavrostomos, reached 701 meters also wearing a Sea Dweller for the Hydra 10 program, although this dive was simulated in a hyperbaric chamber. The program lasted 43 days. Number 80. In 2012, film director James Cameron recreated Rolex's 1960 trip to the bottom of the Mariana Trench, again with a Rolex attached to the outside of the submersible. This time it was the Deep Sea Challenge, although the depth record was not broken. Number 81. The Rolex Deep Sea Challenge is produced in a commercially available form that is capable of withstanding the depth of the Mariana Trench, and a little bit more, at 11,000 meters. It has the deepest depth rating of any serially produced dive watch ever made. It's 50mm across, and its crystal alone is 9.5mm thick. Number 82. In accordance with the standards for dive watches, a dive watch must be capable of 25% more than its published depth rating, so the Deep Sea Challenge is actually capable of reaching 13,750 meters deep. Number 83. The Rolex Submariner is available in two configurations, the Submariner and the Submariner Date. There is no official designation of Submariner No Date. Number 84. Rolex movements are tested in isolation for chronometer accuracy by the Swiss Official Chronometer Testing Institute, known as COSC. Rolex, however, tests this accuracy again once the movement has been fitted in the watch to make sure it still meets the standard. Number 85. The silver numbers found in Rolex's Cerachrom ceramic bezels are made from platinum, although it's only a coating. It's applied using a physical vapor deposition, or PVD, process. Number 86. Bracelets for precious metal and titanium Rolex watches contain ceramic sleeves in the links around the screws to improve flexibility and reduce wear over time. Number 87. The dial of the 2016 Air King 116900 was designed to commemorate Rolex's partnership with the land speed record car Bloodhound, for which it had designed matching instruments in 2014. Although the design remains present in Rolex's catalogue, the dials have since disappeared from the long-troubled land speed record car, and the Rolex website makes absolutely no mention of it. Number 88. As Rolex insists on making its GMT-master 2 ceramic bezels from a single piece, the darker of the two colours has to cover or blend with the lighter. Any combination including black can cover the lighter colour easily. However, for red and blue together, the red can be seen through the blue. This means the red needs to be slightly blue so as not to turn the blue completely purple. Number 89. The original bezel inserts for the GMT-master were made from Bakelite instead of aluminium, so they could incorporate lume in the bezel markings, useful for pilots flying all times of the day. The Bakelite, however, was very fragile, and Rolex replaced many with the updated aluminium bezel. Number 90. The first Rolex watch with a ceramic bezel was the 2005 116718 LN GMT-master 2, which also introduced the new, chunkier case style that defines the modern Rolex collection today. Number 91. The annual calendar complication in the Sky Dweller has an official name, Saros. The Greek term Saros refers to an 18-year alignment cycle between the Sun, Earth and the Moon. Only 6 parts are required to add this annual calendar calendar complication to the base movement. Number 92. By contrast, the Sky Dweller's ring command system, which allows the function of the crown setting to be switched from one to the next, comprises 50 parts alone. Number 93. The date window on the Datejust is fitted at 3 o'clock instead of the more symmetrical 6 o'clock, so the date can be read easily with only a portion of the watch poking out from under a sleeve. Number 94. For the 1979 Transglobe expedition, a 100,000-mile circumpolar navigation of the Earth, Rolex offered explorer Oliver Shepard an Explorer 2 1655, which seemed an appropriate choice. Shepard wasn't keen on the unusual dial and hand configuration, however, and so Rolex swapped it for a GMT-master set. This set in motion the revision of the 1985 Explorer 16550. Number 95. When Tom Shepard led a joint services expedition 7,500 miles across the Sahara from west to east through a section called the Empty Quarter, which had never been done before, his theodolite broke and the team found themselves directionless with no distinguishing features on the landscape to guide them. Shepard used his GMT-master with the sun as a compass and successfully guided them across. Number 96. Rolex created its Twitter account in 2012, but didn't actually make a single post until 2018, 6 years later. Number 97. Rolex understands the importance of sports sponsorships, however, it never sponsors a team. It will either sponsor an individual athlete or the entire sport, but nothing in between. Number 98. The now discontinued Rolex Milgauss has featured a lightning bolt second hand since it was originally released in the late 1950s. The mid-20th century was a turning point in the research of electricity, and the Milgauss was built to be protected from the associated magnetic fields when worn by scientists and engineers. Number 99. The Rolex watch NASA tested alongside the Speedmaster wasn't a Daytona, but a pre-Daytona 6238. If it was, perhaps it would have been selected after all. Number 100. Hans Wilsdorf himself was a watch collector, but considering he ushered in the new era of wristwatches, ironically collected mainly pocket watches. Number 101. For the final fact, perhaps a slightly depressing one. In 1954, when the Rolex Submariner was first put on sale, it cost a whopping $150. Also, the Daytona used to be sold at discount. What facts do you know about Rolex? Let me know in the comments below. If you enjoyed the video, you can support me by liking and subscribing, or by picking up something in my store, linked below the video. And don't forget to slam your front door when you leave early in the morning. Goodbye. Still here? Watch this video next.